Salem's Lot 1979 made-for-TV movie. Okay, I'm not a huge vampire subgenre horror fan. I've only seen about 40, give or take, vampire movies. This is one of my favorite. There's been, a few hundred, give or take, vampire movies ever made. You gotta think. So I'm not an expert on the subgenre of vampire movies, but I just love this take. You got Stephen King novel and Tobe Hooper. I never knew that he directed it the first time I saw this movie in '06, but it's just great. It combines so many great elements. It feels like a Stephen King movie, elements mixed with. It was filmed in the late '70s, so it kind of has that made-for-TV Walton show kind of feel. Tales from the Dark Side. And it also feels like the Twilight Zone at sometimes, and like a '70s haunted house film mixed with the horror film, Hammer horror film. So it's got a lot of great elements going for it. It's 3 hours long, so it's not that as watchable. You can't really watch it every other year. I've only seen it twice. Appreciated it more the second time I just saw it. Last time I saw it was in '06, like I was saying. I heard this movie would be like almost an A+ if it was cut down to like a feature-length film. The European version, I heard that they did a feature film for the European market where they cut it down and they intensified the gore because this was obviously made for TV CBS in the late '70s, so they cut out all the death scenes and they do this sketchy kind of thing that was kind of creepy. I love the creepy feel. Basically, the plot of this is vintage Stephen King. The main character we follow is a writer who comes back to his hometown in Maine. You write what you know, and Stephen King writes a lot about writers as his main protagonist and Maine as a backdrop because he grew up in the New England area. So he comes home to do research on a book in Salem's Lot on a haunted house, a legendary haunted house in that area that he was once spooked out by as a kid. But he's a week too late because a businessman from England has just recently bought the legendary house and he's opening an antique shop in that area. So it follows over the course of that week of him trying to get into the house and research the house even more. They made the vampires more ghoulish creatures, is what I like about it, and it's not like the suave vampire. So they're more scary, and the vampire is basically a Nosferatu copycat, which is dope. And the crate scene, one of the best horror scenes ever. It's so creepy. Only Stephen King just loves that concept of the crate, just like how he did that short story in Creepshow. I freaking love the tension of that. The midnight pickup, mysterious object, delivering it at an old, ruined, abandoned house in the basement. Oh, it's fucking classic. You gotta see this movie. So they're turning the town into vampires. The Striker character is just amazing actor. I love his screen presence. David Soul as the writer, great actor also. Man, so many great elements of this movie to grasp onto, to talk about, that makes it so great. So at the end, he basically becomes an Indiana Jones type vampire hunter on the run at the end. And they also have the character who's obsessed with horror movies, and in his room he has his own collection from the '70s. And it's pretty dope to look back at that time capsule of seeing his horror collection pre-1980s. Just classic. I think I've said enough. I want to keep this brief. I don't want to talk too much about the whole thing. It gets a little dry in spots because it's a TV film miniseries, so they did 2 90-minute segments. But as a feature film, it would have been even more amazing. That's about all I have to say. This was JBM from VillainNews, Villain Radio, and Mr. Creepshow 9. Subscribe to my horror channels on YouTube for more videos coming up, and I'm out.